Hey there everyone, welcome back to another episode of Confronting Evil. Tonight, Seth and Mackenzie get sucked into the adventure of a lifetime and learn that the grass isn't always greener on the other side, unless it's colored that way. So, settle in and prepare to hit the road. It's time for another episode of Confronting Evil.
It had been quite a couple of years for the twins. They'd gone through hell and come out the other side, one of them quite literally. They'd taken on vampires, werewolves, ghosts, demons, and all manner of beings that should not be, but still lurk in the dark reaches of the world. They'd been on case after case, hunting an elusive target, but now things had cooled down, and the work was few and far between. They kept looking, but there was nothing. Not a trace of the man with one red eye, or much of anything else for that matter. They did take down a rogue gang of goblins a few weeks back, but they hadn't seen anything since, and they had fallen into the routine of life. Seth continued his studies and watched anime on his free time, while Mackenzie partied, played old video games, and made fun of Seth's love for Japanese animation.
Bro, you're such a nerd.
Mackenzie teased her brother.
It has a good story. You should really watch it, Kens.
Seth explained, trying to win her over to the fandom.
Nah, I'm good on your robots and weird sex cartoons.
Mackenzie said, grossed out by it.
What? No. What do you think anime is? It's not all mechs and porn. What?
Seth said, a bit confused by how misinformed his sister really was.
Well, what is it then? Aliens? Vampires? Things we see every day? Why be reminded of that?
Mackenzie asked.
You watch horror movies, like, all the time.
Seth replied, shocked by what Mackenzie was saying.
That's different. It's real. It's not whatever this is.
Mackenzie said, gesturing at the TV screen where a giant monster terrorized a city.
It's called Akuni Tashimukao. It's about this curse that creates monsters, and this group of friends has to stop them from destroying.
Seth began, but was interrupted by his sister.
That doesn't sound familiar at all. What does that even mean anyway?
Mackenzie interrupted, teasing her brother.
I just started watching it, but it translates to Confronting Evil.
Seth answered.
Confronting Evil? Huh, that's weird.
Mackenzie said.
What is?
Seth asked.
That's the same name as the ghost hunting crew Cash was part of.
Mackenzie pointed out.
Hey, you're right. That is a weird coincidence.
Her brother agreed.
Well, that was a hell of a case,
Huck said, as he came in the door, his cousin Cash in tow behind him.
I thought you said it would be easy. A good practice case, you said. Isn't that right?
Cash grumbled.
How was I supposed to know that the witch had a monkey paw?
Huckleberry argued.
No. She wasn't a witch. She was a crazy cat lady that liked making twisted wishes. That's it.
Cash argued in return.
Twisted Wishes? That sounds like a badass band name. What's up, you guys?
Mackenzie said, interjecting herself into the conversation.
We just snagged ourselves a monkey's paw,
Huck said, dropping an old, dried-out paw of a primate onto the kitchen table.
You guys had a case and you didn't tell us?
Mackenzie said, shocked by them sneaking off when they'd been out of work for weeks.
Well, sorry. You two was snoring away, and I figured after the drink-off you had last night, I might let you drunkards sleep it off. So I called up Cash. Figured it would be good practice. Boy, was I wrong on that one. Instead of a low-grade witch, we found a top-grade psychopath that enjoyed the corrupted wishes of the paw,
Huck explained.
Oh boy, were you fucking wrong. Eh, cuz?
Cash added.
Well, it's done. Good job.
Mackenzie began.
You guys want some pizza? We picked up a few for breakfast.
She offered.
It's 3 in the afternoon. And pizza for breakfast? What in the...
Huck began, but was interrupted by Cash happily accepting the offer and grabbing a slice of pineapple-covered Hawaiian. Huck relented with a sigh and grabbed a slice of pepperoni before popping open a cold beer from the mini-fridge, followed by a
Good night.
and a stroll into his bedroom.
Breakfast for us, dinner for you.
Mackenzie spoke under her breath before returning to her video game. A few hours passed. Cash had gone home, and Seth got a craving for some hoppy goodness, so he went to go get some beers for he and Mackenzie. But when he got to the fridge, he found that it was empty.
We're out.
Seth said.
What do you mean we're out?
Mackenzie grumbled.
I mean, we're out of beer. And, everything else for that matter. We could use a trip to the store.
Seth replied.
Damn it, Huck.
Mackenzie said, realizing that Huck had snagged the last one.
I can't just pause my game. I'm on a roll. Alright, Seth. Take my girl, but be careful with her.
She reasoned, before tossing her brother the keys to the Torino.
You do know I fixed her up and have been driving her already, right?
Seth asked.
Yeah. How could I forget the updates?
Mackenzie growled, referring to the lack of a tape deck in presence of a satellite radio.
I won't be gone for long.
Seth replied, before grabbing the keys that his sister dangled in front of him and headed out the door. Seth wasn't gone for 10 minutes before Mackenzie let her curiosity get the better of her. What was it that Seth found so interesting in these weird cartoons? She flipped open the laptop and opened a folder marked Anime, desperately praying not to find her brother's porn collection. Luckily for her, she was immediately met with the title of the very anime that her brother had been telling her about, Akuni Tachimikau, Confronting Evil. She was immediately met with a bright and colorful intro with strobing flashes that should have been accompanied by a seizure warning, along with an introduction of all the characters that played out along to some very upbeat Japanese pop music. She found herself enthralled by the story of the curse on a Japanese school set beside a lake. The forest around the lake, home to several monstrous creatures that were dying to be let loose upon a small city. The first episode involved a group of 4 friends, 3 boys and 1 girl, exploring the forest near the school, only to find themselves now the targets of a sacrifice to bring along the next big bad. Monsters now hunted them and sought to inflict as much fear and chaos upon the city as they could in order to feed the eventual rise of the beast. The 4 friends had to pilot mechs that transformed from various vehicles in order to fight the larger threat of a giant monster in order to protect the school. Mackenzie found herself so enthralled by what she was watching, she didn't even hear the roaring engine of the Torino or Seth's entry into the camper, carrying several bags.
Hey, kids. Can I get some help with the groceries?
Seth asked as he entered, turning to find his sister wide-eyed like a deer in the headlights, the familiar sound of the end credits song of the anime playing in the background.
Are you watching anime?
Seth asked her, kind of shocked.
No.
Mackenzie said abruptly.
Then what are you watching?
Seth asked, teasing his sister.
Porn.
Mackenzie blurted out, slamming the laptop shut.
First of all, you. And secondly, you were watching Akuni Tashimukau. How'd you like it?
Seth questioned.
It's amazing. It's like a horror movie cartoon with blood and guts and robots.
Mackenzie said gleefully.
Yeah, but I wish things were like that for us. They have it so easy. Just jump in a robot and...
Mackenzie began, but she was interrupted by the sound of rumbling as a weird vibration trembled through the ground and reverberated through them and everything around them.
What was that?
Mackenzie asked, completely clueless as to what had just happened.
I don't know. This place isn't known for earthquakes. Wait, you don't think...
Seth began, as he realized exactly what was going on. He turned toward the kitchen table to find one of the fingers of the monkey's paw had curled inward toward the palm. They had made a wish.
Seth?
Mackenzie spoke, the sound of confused fear in her voice.
Holy crap! You're a cartoon!
Seth said in shock upon finding his sister had become a bright-eyed anime girl.
You are too!
Mackenzie said, pointing at her brother, who was drawn with lines for eyes.
What's going on?
Mackenzie asked in a bit of a panic, before they were once again interrupted by the ground shaking, followed by a roar of some massive beast.
Wished we were like the anime. Here we are,
Seth said, gesturing to the very detailed, hand-drawn world around them. The two of them rushed out the door of the camper to find a giant monstrosity moving through the forest in the distance, crashing through the earth and ripping up trees as it moved. A massive beast that moved hunched over on all fours like an ape, but its head had two large insectoid eyes that connected to a slender face with the mandibles on the edges of a tentacle-filled mouth. The monster made its way toward town, but was quickly stopped in its tracks when it was hit with a shell from a tank driven by one of the young heroes of Akuni Tachimukao. Behind the tank, a helicopter flew in the sky, firing heavy guns at the colossal monster. From either side of the insectoid cephalopod came two more attackers. From the beast's left roared a motorcycle, and from its right, a speeding sports car made for speed, and in an instant, the motorcycle shifted as the transparent dome came over the rider to protect him as the bike changed shape and grew in size to become a bipedal mech. The sleek sports car did much the same, changing shape into a red-colored, shining mech without losing a bit of speed, the wheels at the sides of the mech's legs still rolling and moving the machine along towards its target, where both the red sports car mech and the black motorcycle mech collided with a fist on either side of the monster's head, crushing it inward with a blast of gore. But the thing just kept going, destroying the forest in its path as it grew ever closer to town.
We have to help them,
Seth shouted before looking around for a means to do so.
How do you suppose we do that? We don't have our own robots or anything.
Mackenzie said.
They're called mechs.
Seth corrected his sister.
Whatever.
Mackenzie grumbled.
Doesn't matter what they're called. We don't have any.
She pessimistically argued.
Don't be so sure,
Seth said, looking over at the twinkling paint of the metallic dark teal Torino sitting nearby. The two of them climbed into the Torino and immediately noticed that the vehicle was almost entirely the same on the inside, aside from it now being animated. There was one other small change. A big red trigger on the inside edge of the steering wheel. Mackenzie put the pedal to the metal and they tore off down the road, toward the bend, and toward where the creature was approaching. And when they got closer, Mackenzie prepared herself to pull the trigger.
You ready, bro?
She asked.
Let's do this,
Seth replied, extremely excited and scared about being in an anime, something that he'd always dreamed of. Mackenzie adjusted her grip on the steering wheel and pulled the trigger inward, instantly launching them forward as the Torino shifted around them. Legs unfolded from the sides and pushed the vehicle upward as two massive arms folded outward from the sides of the hood, which in turn folded downward to become a chest plate. Seth and Mackenzie sat within the cockpit of the mech, where its head would be. The vehicle didn't drive any differently. The gas and brake still functioned relatively the same. The only additional thing to happen is two more triggers popped upward from the steering wheel, lower down below the red trigger. These, Mackenzie assumed, were to control the mech's arms. She reached out and pulled one back, causing the arm to swing forward with a punch. She gasped, then pulled the other one back forcefully, which brought a powerful swing forward from the left side. Mackenzie squealed with joy, her body flailing from side to side like a worm, and her arms swinging in the air. Her eyes turned to upward arrow caret symbols, and her mouth had an ear-to-ear grin as she celebrated with glee. After Mackenzie was able to settle down, she prepared herself for attack.
Ready, bro?
Mackenzie asked again.
Let's take this thing down.
Seth replied, with a mixture of joy and conviction. As the Mecha Torino approached the colossal beast, Mackenzie pulled the right trigger as hard as possible as she slammed on the brakes, causing the Torino to throw up a right-side fist into a hard uppercut beneath the creature's head, knocking it off balance and causing it to temporarily fall to the ground.
Who is that?
Yelled a young man's voice over the radio. Seth looked down at the radio to find an unfamiliar light on, where he reached down and pushed a button beneath it.
Hello?
Seth said, hoping that a connection had been made to allow them to speak to each other.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
The young man yelled.
Never mind that right now, Ren. We have to get rid of this thing.
Seth said, prompting a reaction of shock from the four friends in mechs.
How do you know my name?
Ren asked in confusion.
We don't have time for that right now. Attack!
Yelled a girl over the radio before a hail of bullets unleashed from the helicopter as it transformed into its mecha form, allowing for the additional firing of rockets into the giant monster. The remaining vehicle, a tank, transformed into a massive, hulking behemoth of a mech, covered in armor, one of the arms replaced with a barrel of a tank, while two 50 caliber machine guns mounted to its shoulders began to fire everything that they had at the colossal monster. All 5 mechs now attacked the beast at once, blowing off chunks of flesh and breaking bones with powerful melee strikes, littering the forest around the area with blood and bits of gore the size of a cow, until finally the massive creature collapsed onto the ground and fell lifeless.
Is it over? Did we kill it?
The anime girl in the helicopter mech asked.
It's dead, but it ain't over.
Ren spoke again.
We still have to find the one that summoned it.
A new voice of a young man spoke over the radio.
I'm on it.
A fourth voice sounded off.
Wait. Aren't we forgetting something?
Ren asked.
Who's in the American Muscle?
He continued, referring to the Mecha Torino.
Hi. I'm Mackenzie.
She answered, introducing herself.
And I'm Seth. It's like a total honor to meet you. Well, not meet you. We haven't actually met yet. Just speaking. It's like a total honor to speak with you, Ren, sir.
Seth interjected, completely nerding out over being in one of his favorite animes.
Where did you guys come from, and how did you get a mech? And how is it American made? What are the specs on it? What's the velocity? Oh, or better yet, what's the PSI of the arms?
The one that had previously chimed in with, on it, then said, also geeking out, but about the technology of it all.
Kaito,
Ren stopped him.
Yeah?
Kaito replied.
the summoner.
Ren informed him.
Oh, right. I'm on it.
Kaito said, returning to his search.
How did you know Ren's real name?
The other male voice asked.
We know yours too, Haru and Riku and Kaito too.
Mackenzie revealed.
How?
Haru asked from inside his motorcycle mech.
That's a long story. You want to meet face to face so we can explain?
Seth suggested, jumping at the opportunity to actually meet some of his favorite characters.
That sounds good. Let's go get to that clearing.
Ren suggested, pointing to an open field nearby.
Sounds like a plan.
Mackenzie said, before she sped off toward the open field, and being the competitive spirit that he was, Ren followed quickly thereafter, racing up alongside the speeding Torino, before Ren flicked a switch and the mech transformed back into the red sports car that it was originally, allowing him to take the lead and speed past the Mecha Torino. Mackenzie quickly did the same, flicking the switch to transform back into the Torino, which allowed her to gain more speed, going neck to neck with Ren's car beside her. They both made it to the clearing at right around the same time, making it difficult to determine a winner of the impromptu race, but both of them left the other mechs far in the dust.
Beat you.
Ren spoke calmly.
What? No way! I totally won!
Mackenzie argued.
You were a full car length behind me.
Ren growled.
More like half car length, and you were behind me.
Mackenzie said with a proud smile as she opened the door to get out of the Torino. Seth simply shook his head and rolled his eyes before he too followed suit. Ren opened his door and climbed out of his low-sitting car in order to meet the twins, as the remaining three pulled up behind him. Ren wore a red leather jacket over his black shirt, as if he were in a Michael Jackson music video. His jet-black, spiky hair stuck out in every which way, with red tips on many of the ends, and he always had that bad boy look about him. Riku landed her chopper and pulled herself up to it. She had shoulder-length, bright blonde hair that was tied back in a ponytail. Her twinkling blue eyes glanced over at the twins as she tightened her jumpsuit that she was wearing as pants, the upper half of the suit tied around her waist, and she wore a cream-colored tank top above it. Haru climbed off of his motorcycle and removed his helmet to reveal his long, black hair that hung down over his leather-clad shoulders. He had black jeans and a black leather jacket to match the color of his motorcycle. Finally, Kaito climbed up out of his tank. He had blue hair that also stuck out in every which way. He wore a small, puffy blue coat, and he reached up to push his glasses up on his nose.
Found it!
He blurted out as he lifted himself up onto the roof of the tank.
Found what?
Ren said, obviously distracted by the very important conversation at hand, the fact that he won the race.
He found proof that I won.
Mackenzie said, grinning at Ren.
What? No, I found the one that summoned the monster,
Kaito said, completely oblivious to the argument at hand.
Who is it?
Ren asked, putting his argument aside.
Mitsumi Noroi, the cursed woman of the water.
Kaito replied, causing Mackenzie to glance at her brother with a look that told him it reminded the two of them of the same thing, like a ghost from their past.
Thanks for the help, but we can handle the rest from here.
Ren said to the twins before climbing back into his car.
We've dealt with the curse of two of our own. From the sound of it, you might need our help.
Seth spoke up. Ren replied with a thanks but no thanks, not wanting the deaths of a couple rookies on his conscience, completely full of himself.
Rookies?
Mackenzie balked.
Seth, did he just call us rookies?
She then asked her brother.
I think he did, Kins.
Seth replied to his sister, unleashing her full brunt onto the argumentative Ren.
When you were fighting the giant bug squid half-mile down the road, you would have hit a river. That would have backed you into a corner and you would have been screwed with a capital S. In case you haven't noticed, Dorothy, we're not in Kansas anymore. You're gonna need someone that knows the lay of the land around here if you want a chance of even finding this McLooney Noir, much less taking her down.
Mackenzie roared out, causing Seth to do a bit of a facepalm, covering his eyes for the moment.
It's Mizumi Noroi.
Kaito interjected, correcting her.
I know what I said.
Mackenzie blurted out.
I don't know, Ren. I think maybe they're right. I mean, look around. We're clearly out of our element here.
Riku explained, gesturing at the unfamiliar surroundings. They weren't near their school or their city. Ren looked around. He didn't really get the reference that Mackenzie was talking about, but he saw that he was in unfamiliar territory, and thus begrudgingly relented.
There's a lake nearby. Hopefully that is what we are looking for. If not, the only other option I can think of is a few hours away.
Mackenzie began.
A few hours?
Ren roared, his eyes growing large and white, while steam raged up from his head, causing wavy lines over top of him to express his extreme anger.
Well, let's hope it won't come to that.
Seth added.
Let's go.
He finished.
I vote we go.
Haru said, tossing his long black hair back.
I second that.
Riku added, raising her hand.
Statistically, since the monster was here, it would stand to reason that its summoner would also be nearby.
Kaito said, adding in his vote.
All right, let's go.
Ren grumbled.
Follow me.
Mackenzie said, before sticking her tongue out and pulling down her lower eyelid to make a face at Ren, and then turning around to hop back into the Torino.
You don't think it's her, do you?
Seth asked, after getting into the car.
No, she's gone. The curse on Locust Lake is over. That's not where we're going. At least I hope not.
Mackenzie said, before pulling out of the field and heading toward the nearest lake. A few miles down the road, the lot of them found exactly what they were looking for. The local lake, boiled and raged, the waters within it sloshing about as if it were in a shaking bowl, and there, standing in the center of the water, on top of it, like she was some kind of dark messiah, was Mizumi Noroi, the cursed woman of the water, and the source of all the evil that plagued the four friends from the anime. Ren immediately shifted into his mech form in order to attack the woman, but he was quickly smacked down by a massive, whip-like wave that crashed onto the shore.
What the hell?
Ren shouted with shock that he was taken down so easily. This was followed by a second wave that swatted Riku's helicopter out of the air as if it were a fly, sending the chopper crashing to the shore of the lake.
She's too powerful!
Riku yelled out.
If this water witch doesn't want to play by the rules, then neither will we.
Mackenzie said, reaching into the back seat to grab an old tome from the duffel bag in the back before passing it to Seth.
Oh, so now you trust the book.
Seth quipped.
Hey, I'm here, aren't I? Get to it, bro.
Mackenzie said, pushing the book into her brother's hands before exiting the Torino in order to grab some more conventional weaponry from the trunk. She grabbed a rifle out of the back before positioning herself over the hood so as to steady her aim. The mist and foam from the crashing waves of the lake made it a bit difficult to get a clear view of her target, but as soon as she did, she squeezed the trigger and sent a bullet right through her torso.
Yes!
Mackenzie yelled in celebration before the cursed woman came at her full speed, arms trailing behind her as she zipped across the water.
No!
Mackenzie then yelled in a panic as she readied herself for another shot. Another bullet tore through the woman, but still she ran across the surface of the water, closer and closer.
Seth? Could you hurry up in there?
She yelled in fear as the red, glowing eyes of the woman in a ripped kimono approached.
Working on it, Kens!
Seth yelled back. Mackenzie returned her focus to the woman of the water, who now stood motionless at the very edge of the water, glaring at her with an endless rage. Mackenzie could feel the discomfort of her state, as if her burning embers of eyes were burning a hole through Mackenzie to her core. Then, without warning, Mackenzie was ripped away from the Torino as a wave whipped upward and smacked her aside, before yanking her toward the icy grasp of the lake and its curse. The waves formed arms that held onto her and pulled her down into the lake. Mackenzie struggled to reach the surface for air, but to no avail. Seth jumped into high gear and leapt from the Torino, where he began to read from the book, chanting incantations in an unknown, long-dead tongue and moving his hands around in very deliberate patterns. The cursed woman was then yanked backwards. She fell upon the surface of the water and attempted to crawl and claw her way forward, but like the very waves that she had once commanded, she was now pulled down toward the dark abyss of the lake. Mackenzie swam to the surface, gasping for air as Mitsumi Noroi sank beneath it. The waters calmed. The sky turned blue once more, and the birds began to sing once again. They had stopped the curse. They'd won. Seth helped his sister out of the water as the four friends approached them.
We had the best weapons on the planet, and you two took her out with a book. I can't believe this.
Ren blurted out with disgust.
Knowledge is power.
Kaito informed him, walking alongside him.
Yeah, whatever.
Ren ignored his friend.
A book is a loaded gun.
Seth added, quoting Bradbury.
How?
Ren asked.
How did you do that? Are you like a wizard or something?
He then questioned.
Not exactly.
Seth replied.
How did you know our names?
Riku asked the twins.
Well,
Seth stumbled over his words, looking over at Mackenzie, who shook her head and shrugged.
We're from a different world. A world that looks like this one, but different. And I don't know how to say this, but in our world, you guys are a TV show. An animation.
Seth explained as empathetically as possible.
So, wait. What? We're like a cartoon or something?
Ren said, contemplating the meaning of his very existence.
If we aren't real, then does any of this mean anything? I can't be fake. I'm alive. I feel alive.
He added, beginning to freak out, causing Seth and Mackenzie to panic as the poor boy began to rant incessantly about the meaning of his existence, or lack thereof.
Just kidding. You guys are really fun.
I like you.
Ren said, his demeanor entirely changing.
What?
Mackenzie asked, entirely confused about what had just happened.
You guys are really fun. I like you. This was a test to see how well you could perform under pressure. You passed. Well, I suppose your methods are questionable, but I guess you will have to do. I needed to know, because I need your help.
Ren explained, one of his eyes fading from brown to bright blue, followed by the animated world around them collapsing as if it were some elaborate movie set, and everything returned to normal life. The other friends vanished into dust that blew away into nothing, and the man with one blue eye took his original form once more, shedding the false skin, much like the dust of his old friends. It wasn't real. None of it was real, and the twins were really the ones in a fake world the whole time.
What?
Mackenzie said, looking around in amazed confusion.
How? Why? Huh?
She stammered on, sounding very much like how fake Ren had previously.
So, everything was fake? There was no monkey paw?
Seth asked.
No, the monkey paw is real. Your friend really is married to that crazy cat lady. It's just a wish that was false.
The man with one blue eye explained.
Wait. What?
Seth asked in shock.
I need your help to stop me. Well, him. My other half. My opposite. I think you know who I'm talking about.
The man with one blue eye said, ignoring the comment. he had made entirely, as he pointed to his eye. One blue eye, one red eye.
Well, it seems that help can be found in the most mysterious of places, or dimensions for that matter. Hopefully the duo are well on their way to finding and stopping that which plagues them before the timer runs out. But you won't have to wait too long to find out what happens next, because Confronting Evil returns next month.
Social media can be very unpredictable, especially regarding horror content. If this content gets removed, all new content will be simultaneously presented on various websites provided in the description to this video. Make sure to follow me in other digital spaces so that you never miss out on the terror. Also, if you like this video, make sure to leave a comment and hit the like button. It helps the channel a lot. If you're new to the channel and you enjoy what's here, consider hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you never miss an upload. Writing is a dream of mine, and it's all of you that make that dream come true.